TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Hey gang, welcome in. It is Monday, which I'm not normally here, but it is. It's Monday. And welcome to In the Batter's Box. My name is Scott Webb, and I appreciate you guys showing up today. Been a tough weekend of games. So a lot of times, I can sit here and I can go over stuff and probably bore people to death. But the reality of it is that, I like to come on and have, a bunch of picks and a lot of good things to say about some of these games. And, over the weekend, I didn't really think we had that. So there wasn't a whole lot of reason for me to be on. So we didn't do any shows over the weekend. I did feel bad, so I gave out a play on Sunday and it won. So that's a good thing. So today we had two games I gave the guys in the group today, and the first one was the Royals today, and they won. So that's good. I don't, sometimes when you do these games. Hey, Daniel Berry Sports, how are you? Welcome in. Thank you for being part of the show. So sometimes when you do these things, the things don't go the way you think they are, and Cole Reagans was one of the main reasons why I was on that game today, and he struggled. He had a hard time throwing strikes. He walked a lot of guys. He actually walked in a run and a wild pitch, and that's how Cleveland took a 2-0 lead. There was a home run hit by Melendez, made it 3-2. Then they scored again on a Bobby Witt home run, made it 4-2, and then they ended up winning the game 4-3. But that wasn't necessarily how I had it handicapped. I didn't expect Reagans to be bad. And then he got hurt, so not sure what his deal is. But he threw over 90 pitches, so he was going to come out anyway. But they took him out because he was hurt. So have to see what that looks like going forward for that team, because this is a big series. And for some of these teams, every game they play now is a big series. And this one's really big because the Royals are trying to run down the Guardians, and they got them right in front of them. So that was a big win for the Royals in game one. They play another one tonight, and we'll talk about that one too. And then we've got some other stuff to talk about with some of these games, and we'll break down most of them tonight. There's only I think 10 games or something, maybe 9, because of some of these games already played. So we'll see what that looks like. And then I wanted to hit you guys with one thing specifically. And as we're getting ready to transition, and it shouldn't necessarily be a transitional thing, but we're going to be talking a lot more football as things start to transition into that. You need a source of truth. So what does that mean? Well, you can look at these lines all you want, and you can go look at, I don't know, like if you pull up Unabated, you can get 15 to 20 different sports books. This one here on Wager Talk has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They have 8 books right there. You can get numbers for all these different things. But what does that really mean, that you have these numbers? And I know that you have a lot of people that do what's called line shopping, and they try to get the best numbers, and they try to do this and that. But I guarantee you, most of the people who are watching this right now have one or two sports books. They don't have 15. They certainly don't have 15 funded accounts. So it's very important to understand that we talk about this and have talked about this quite a bit. What's a good bet? Well, that's the first thing you have to do. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's football, basketball, hockey, tennis, ping pong, whatever you're betting, horses. It's got to be a good bet. So how do you know you have a good bet? Well, you have to have a source of truth to give yourself the opportunity to make a good bet. So a source of truth is what is commonly believed to be, or in your world, what is commonly believed to be the line. That's the odds. That's where it is. Like in my world, when I do baseball, I make my number, and that's my truth. That is it. I'm very sold on what my process is, and I'm sold on that number. So I can compare that number, that source of truth, to all the other offerings, and then I can see what my value is created by, and then as I can make good bets based off of my source of truth and what value it's showing me. You know, if it's showing me that a team should be minus 120 and I can get them at, say, plus money, well, that's a source of truth that says, hey, this is great value. You need to do this, right? So then it becomes EV positive, right? Extra value positive. You make that bet 1,000 times, then you're going to expect to have a positive return. So that's what a good bet is, right? You need a source of truth. Now, there's two ways to get a source of truth. The first way, and maybe it's the most common way, is you need to find a sports book that is what's an originator sports book. So Circa Sports, they make their own numbers. They publish their own lines. They're not copycatting the numbers. They make their own number, and then a lot of people copycat their numbers and put it out. Bookmaker, Chris, the same place, offshore account. They do that too. They make their own number, and they're a source of truth. So, in other words, you don't have to be able to make your own number if you want to use those numbers as the source of truth. And then you compare all the other numbers that you have available to you to those. And then you work through your handicapping and your processing from that point. But at all times, make a good bet. So what that means is even when you go and you handicap stuff, you should never be making EV minus bets. So make this up, right? So if Pinnacle is offering a minus 120 and you're handicapping and you're going through it and you're going, man, this looks really good to me. I know that it says it's minus 120, but I don't believe that 120. I think the numbers really, the other team is probably small favorites. They should be like minus 105. Well, the source of truth says they're minus 120. Your handicapping is secondary to the source of truth. Your source of truth is the primary asset to what you have to making a good bet. Your handicapping and all the skills and all the stuff you do are supposed to then reinforce that play or reinforce another play if they're kind of tied, right? So if you've got one play that's a great value and another one that's a great value, but you only want to bet one of them, maybe the things that you look at handicapping wise says, I'm going to bet this game and not that game to make it work for yourself that way. But by no means should you be betting based off your handicapping skills. You just shouldn't be, because that's not good betting. There's two things to making a sports wager personality work. The first thing is make good bets. That's the number one thing. The second part of what you do is you handicap the teams and the players and the skills of each team and look for opportunities that make your value to your source of truth, your value exasperated. So you either bet more on that play or at least you just make the bet, right? So I want to make sure that we're clear because football's coming. Football's already here. And there's all kinds of numbers and lines and things out there. And what are you doing about it? Where are you getting your numbers from? What are you doing? So I think that's an important piece. We're going to talk just a little bit of football after we do baseball today. So let's get into some of this baseball stuff. So the first situations that come up, and let me get my things right here. I had a power flicker. We had a storm just before I came on, so everything's just now coming back up. We're looking at the first game is over today, which was Cleveland Ravens, and Sandlin was pitching, bullpen game for Cleveland. The next game on the list, excuse me, is this is Chicago at Pittsburgh, and this is Jameson Taillon and Mitch Keller, which of course were both Pittsburgh Pirates at one time and thought to be, hey, these are the next best guys coming up. This morning, the number was Pittsburgh minus 110. Right now, the number is Pittsburgh 110 and 109. So it's basically 110 again. And then when my number on this game, I have Chicago minus 106. So it's a little different, but not to the degree in which I think there's a ton of value there. And this is why. Just because my number came back and said, hey, the source of truth says it's minus 106, so that means I probably won't be betting on the Pittsburgh side. So then when I start to look at the handicap part of this, and I go and say, hey, what's happening with these pitchers, and why is it the way it is? The reality becomes is they're that way because the Chicago Cubs are a little bit better than a 500 team, and the Pirates are a little bit below a 500 team. And theoretically, Keller's a little better pitcher than Taillon, but not enough to make it a dramatic edge. So that's why it kind of comes out the way it does on my side. But when I start to look at it, I go, first thing, Mitch Keller's made 25 starts. He's won 17 games. 17 and 8. Okay, I'm not betting against Mitch Keller. So that rules this game out. So I can't. I'm supposed to be finding reasons to bet on Chicago, and the very first thing I look at says Mitch Keller's 17 and 8. So out the door goes Chicago, right? I'm not betting on that. Jameson Taillon's made 22 starts. He's 10 and 12. So a little bit under 500, but way different than what Mitch Keller is. And when you kind of slide them out and look at him, you go, oh wait, over the last 28 days, Taillon's a 139 SOPS plus, 39% worse than an average pitcher. That's another reason you would want to bet on the Pirates. So I'm looking for reasons to bet on the Cubs, and all I'm finding are reasons to bet on the Pirates. All right, how it goes. I'm certainly not going against my source of truth. I'm not going to go and say, hey, my handicapping skills are better than the number, because it could turn out that the Pirates win the game. But the other part of this that we're not talking about yet is the Chicago Cubs right now are third in offense in Major League Baseball. Third. That's pretty good. They're scoring 6.2 runs a game. The Pirates, they're 25th out of 30 teams. That's not very good. And they're scoring 3.7 runs a game. So there's reasons why you want to bet on the Cubs. But so the Cubs to win this game are going to need a bad start from Keller and a good start from Taillon. And when I looked at these numbers and started kind of breaking them down and getting to those to the points, I didn't see where that was necessarily going to happen. So that ruled the game out for me. But that's kind of how I think when you break down a slate of games that you start looking at them. So that brings us to the next game, because I'm trying to get to this game right before it starts here. This is the Cleveland game, the second game. And I'm not a big proponent anymore of the idea that if you win the first game that you can't win the second, because I think you can. And I'm certainly not a big fan of Logan Allen. So Logan Allen is the pitcher for Cleveland today. He's made 19 starts. He's 11-8 in his 19 starts, but his season, because he hasn't pitched a lot in the last 30 days in Major League Baseball. He's pitching in the minor leagues, but not in majors. 149 is his SOPS plus. That means he's 49% worse than an average pitcher. 49% worse. And the game prior, right, the first game was against Reagan's. Reagan's is a lefty. Cleveland's pretty good against left-handed pitchers. Against right-handed pitchers, they're 14% worse than an average offense. That's not very good. They're 3 games above 500 against right-handed pitching. So, and the Royals are throwing Marsh today. And Marsh, I know people don't really know who he is, but Alec Marsh, he's made 19 starts. He hasn't made a whole lot since they got Lorenzen in the trade, but he's made 19. He's 12-7 for the season. He's a 105 SOPS plus, so he's an average pitcher. That's basically what he is. He's an average pitcher. Can Cleveland hit an average pitcher? Sure they can. Can the Royals hit an above worse average pitcher? You know, somebody who's not very good at all? Sure they can. So this game is going to have some runs in it, I think. You know, the last game was 4-3, and it was a big bullpen game. And I'm not sure what kind of situation the bullpen's going to be in this whole series for Cleveland, to be honest, now that they ran a bullpen game, the first one. And if they've got to pitch, you know, a lot of guys out of the bullpen again today, they're going to be kind of hosed over the next couple of games. So when you start to break it down and you look at it, pitching-wise, it's kind of a wash, if not better, for the Royals because Logan Allen's not very good. A year ago, he was pretty good. This year, not nearly as well. And then when you look at it on the offensive side, you know, the Royals are going to hit this guy better than what the Guardians hit right-handed pitchers. And then secondly, the Royals are 8th in offense in just as a team in the last 7 days, and Cleveland's 15. So I kind of like the idea here that you can get the Royals as an underdog in game 2. And I think that that's the right side to be on. My numbers say it's the right side to be on. My numbers said up there. My numbers say it's Kansas City like minus 120, and you can get them at plus 110. So I like that, and I think that should be something to consider when you're looking at that game. I don't think it's a slam dunk because, you know, neither one of these pitchers is any good. They're not going to go out there and strike everybody out. If there are strikeouts, it'll be coming from Marsh, not from Logan Allen. He's just not that kind of pitcher. So I do like the idea that there's some value on the Royals. Then the next game on the board was the Houston game against the Phillies, and this is an interesting spot because this morning when I made the number, the number comes out and it's Philadelphia minus 184. And when it opened this morning, when I started putting these numbers together, it was the Phillies 160. So there's a pretty big difference there. But again, you know, I'm not a big proponent of going out and going, hey, go pay with minus 180 instead of minus 160. You know, if it was you had to pay 160, but your number said it should be like minus 250. Well, man, there you go. You got some value, and you got quite a bit of it. But I think that the way I saw this was there's not enough value to be betting on the Phillies in this spot, even though that's probably the right side. And now the number has moved to the direction of the Phillies to the degree in which that margin gap now is much smaller. So I think that takes this game totally out of play, unless you were going to like look at a total or whatever. And where's my total in this game? Well, my computer died, so let me go see if I can get these back up. We'll go here and open that back up, run scored worksheet, and update that, and then we'll go get the score predictor. So the score predictor says, there we go. It says Philadelphia 4.5 runs and Houston 3.3 runs. So that's 7.8 runs, and I think the total in this game is like 8 or something. So I don't think that I don't think that's going to work either. So where's that game? Houston. There they are. Yeah, it's 8. So I think there's no value in this game, and I certainly don't think that I would be going first 5 either. So like, if you don't see if you don't see it and your offenses don't quite match up, Houston, Philadelphia 2.5 runs, and Houston 1.6 runs in the first 5 innings. That tells you that you could bet Philadelphia. But at the same time, all it takes is a home run or two, and boom. I will say Houston's not got Altuve in the lineup today, but they get Alvarez back, who had a neck problem or whatever. He was stiff-necked the other day. So he is in the lineup. And, what's interesting about these teams, and I was talking to Jeff earlier today, and offense, there we go. The Houston Astros are being led by Diaz, the catcher. He's over the last 7 days driving the bus. He's leading the way, and there's only one other guy that's doing anything for them. And then when you look at what's going on in Philadelphia, they only got one guy. Real Muto is 3.5 in his offensive WAR. Nobody else is above 1 WAR, and they got 5 guys that are -1 WAR or worse. So they got 5 guys pulling away from their offense, only one guy driving the bus. So I can't bet on Philadelphia in that kind of a scenario, even with small margins. Like if you got a small margin to win, I don't. So when I look at this game, I saw a lot of people looking at totals today and betting overs. But I don't see where the offense comes from. You got a good pitcher in Wheeler on the mound. Blanco is not a big strikeout guy, but he gets a lot of outs. But he can give up a homer too. So I tend to think this is more of an underplay, but it doesn't show under by much. So this is another one of those spots where I just say, okay, let's pass that one. This Yankees game, I don't think there's value in it. I mean, when I made the number this morning, it was a pretty big number on my end. I had -178, and it wasn't up that high yet. And now it's over 180, I think. I think might even be more than that last time I looked. Where's the Yankees? Yankees, 182 at Circa, 185 at Bookmaker. So we'll just say it's, 183. And my number was 180. So there's no value there. And Parker, he's been pretty good at home. But the Yankees are hitting with Judge, Soto. So when those guys are going off, you can't bet against the Yankees. And Cortez, over his last few starts, has been really good. He's been mostly good at home, so we'll see how that translates for him tonight. I'm interested in that, but I'm not interested in the bet. I don't think that's going to work out. So then we get to a point where we might have something, right? What's the next one that comes up? The next one is this is Atlanta and Minnesota. So this is a key series. Atlanta's trying to track down the Phillies. Not sure that they're really trying to track them down as much as they're really trying to hold off the Mets. The Mets are like 2.5, 3 games out of the wild card spot, and Atlanta has that last spot. So they're really Atlanta needs to win these games. The Twins, on the other hand, they're in a spot where they dropped a game the other day over the weekend against teams they should have beat, and the Cardinals, and they're in a spot now where they're 3 games back of Cleveland. They know that the Royals are playing them, so they got to keep up, and they got to keep up with the Royals, and they got to try to catch the Guardians, right? And if it transitions into the Royals sweep the Guardians, then the Royals are in the lead, and then the Twins need to keep up. So this is a big series between the Braves and the Twins, and so I wouldn't have said it at the beginning of the season, and it's certainly even after the first month and a half. But the Twins are throwing their best pitcher today, And no, it's not Pablo Lopez. And no, it's not Joe Ryan. It's Ober. Ober's their best pitcher. He's been their best pitcher over the last 30 days. He's been their best pitcher the second half of the season. He's pitching great. And the Braves, I don't know if you really looked at their lineup, but the Braves are putting out a lineup that isn't what I would consider to be Bravish, right? Like the Braves are known for offense. They're known for scoring runs. They're known for hitting. And their lineup, let me go to it. Their lineup is not even a semblance of what it used to be. If I can get there. There we go. Their lineup tonight looks like this. Their leadoff hitter was Harris there for a little while when he came back. Well, he got hit in the hand. It's not broke, but it's all swole up, so he's not playing. So Merrifield, remember Merrifield was released, and he's picked up. So Merrifield is the leadoff hitter. Soler is batting second. Now Soler is a far cry from what he was when he helped the Braves win the World Series. Or he's not that guy. Their best player is Ozuna. He's been the best player all season. And then Olsen, he's batting .220. D'Arnaud's catching today. Laureano's playing left field. Kellenick's playing center field. Urshela's playing third base. And Arcia is the shortstop. This lineup is not a murderer's row of anything. They don't have a bunch of guys out there that are that are hitting. They got one guy in this whole offense that can hit, and that's Ozuna. And currently, he's not. Currently, Merrifield is the guy who's kind of helping them get along, and they're playing the Twins, right? So the Twins are minus a couple guys too. Like Correa's not playing, hasn't been playing for a little while, but they got Margot, who's their leadoff hitter. Lewis, Miranda, Santana, Farmer, Castro, Vasquez, Wallner, Martin. These guys have a much deeper, better lineup than what the Braves are putting out there. And Fried on the mound, he's a good pitcher. I remember it wasn't this year, but it was like a year ago. I was asked if I thought Fried was a Hall of Fame candidate. I'm like, wait, it's way too early. A and B, we'll see. Like he's not that. He's so when Fried's healthy, he's not even the ace of this team. So if it's hard to unless you're Tom Glavine or something like that. It's really hard to be a Hall of Fame pitcher when you're not even the ace of your own team. So in this particular case, he's a left-handed pitcher, and the Twins hit lefties pretty well. So I expect the Twins to actually hit. And when I pulled up the numbers, when it came up to wrong one. When I pulled up the numbers and it came to the pitching, and situationally, I was looking at this and I'm like, Bailey Ober's a 41 SOPS plus, 41 in his last 30 days. So he's 59% better than an average pitcher. That's just phenomenally good. I mean, that's just great. And then when I looked at, okay, they're facing the lefties. They're 21-16 against lefties. No issues there. And then when it came to looking at actual numbers, I was surprised that Fried walks as many guys as he has been. He's got average metrics, 3.69, 4.21 xFIP and Sierra. I mean, they're not bad. Average is average. So can Minnesota hit average pitching? Absolutely they can. And I'm not saying that he's terrible. I don't want anybody to think that I think Max Fried's an average pitcher. I think he's an above average pitcher. His game score for the season's a 55, so certainly he's a good pitcher. But currently he's walking guys. His whip rate, walks plus hits divided by innings pitched, is 155. So he's allowing 1.5 guys on base every inning. That's going to be a problem against the Twins. The Twins get guys on base. Sometimes they get clutch hitting, sometimes they don't. But when they get some clutch hitting, they're going to score a lot of runs, and that's what we bet on. We're betting on the opportunities that are presented to a team to score runs, because that's all we can do. And I think they are going to be presented with a lot more than what the Braves are going to be able to get. For example, Ober, his whip rate is 0.76. He doesn't let a guy on base per inning. So that's where the biggest differences are going to run is who's going to hit the home run, who's going to get the walk, and it looks to me like Fried's the guy who's giving up the walks, because Ober doesn't. Yeah, Ober doesn't give up the home runs. Fried doesn't give up the home runs either. But Fried makes mistakes. Over his last 30 days, he's a minus 0.17 WPA, win percent added. And when you look at what you have from Ober, he's a 0.91 to the good side. So he's not making mistakes. And he's a 56, his game score for the entire season. His game score for the last 7 days, 7 games he's pitched, 66. So he's ace-like. Like he's as good as it gets. And Fried, over his last 7 starts, is a 47, below average pitcher. So I like that setup, and obviously I think when I looked at it this morning, that number was, I think it was 120-ish, somewhere in there. Where is it? Fried over. It was, no, this morning Minnesota was minus 105, and the Braves were minus 105. Then it's been bet up. I think it's 120 or 118 now. And I think you're good there, because even at 118, 120, my number in this game is much higher. I have Minnesota. Well, shouldn't say it that way. I have Minnesota at 121 right now. Minnesota minus 121. So as long as you're staying within around that number, I think you're good. I think Minnesota wins this game. But I wanted to just give that sort of some thought for a second. And then think about this, right? One of those days last week, I don't remember which day it was, we talked about one of the things that we were going to start looking at is betting series, okay? So this is the first game of this series, and where are they? They're there. So the series price is Atlanta minus 135. So the series price is Atlanta minus 135. So that means over the next couple of days, because I think they play 4 times, they're going to have to, especially if the Twins win this first game, the reality is they're almost going to have to sweep to get to a point. They're going to have to win 2 out of 3 to at least tie the series. So when you're looking at series pricing and you're looking at different things, you can find value. Like we would have to handicap out who the pitchers are. And if you go to Roster Resource, and I'll go there now, Roster Resource is on Fangraphs. And if I wanted to pull this up for, say, the Twins, where are they? They're there. Pull up the Twins. I can get you the pitchers who are going to pitch. So today it's Bailey Ober against Max Fried. Bailey Ober is the favorite. Tomorrow, Simeon Woods Richards is going to face Spencer Schwellenbach. That's probably going to be close to pick 'em. The Braves might even be favored in that one. And then the last game is going to be David Festa against Chris Sale. So now you know why Atlanta's the favorite, right, in the series. So it would really come down to, what does tomorrow's number look like? I can make a number, and I can really calculate that out and kind of get an idea. And if I thought that the Braves were going to lose tomorrow to Simeon Woods Richardson, with Schwellenbach on the mound, and I thought they were going to lose that game. Maybe I don't bet it that way. Maybe I bet the series price because I'm getting them as a dog, which then gives me a shot in the second game too, even though it's not really a good shot because Festa has to face Sale. So, but that's kind of what you're looking at, right? You're looking at these series prices, and you can get some interesting numbers because Bailey Ober's the favorite today, but they're not favored to win the series. They're favored to lose the next two games, which in turn then would probably be Schwellenbach as a favorite. And maybe you just bet that tomorrow that way. I don't know. We'll see what it brings up. I like to look at the matchups and see what these guys have done over the last 30 days, which I haven't done for doing this. But that's what you would do. When you're looking at a series price, you price out the series and you start to look at where's your value and where does it come in and what happens and kind of go from there. An interesting one to look at would be where's that Cleveland series with Kansas City. So here's the pitching matchups, and then where's the number? Let's see. Let's look at the number. There we go. Let's go to the number. The number in that Cleveland series is Kansas City, and I'm assuming that's opened. It opened Cleveland minus 120 and Kansas City plus 100. It's a 4-game set. So you have now, after the first game of it, you have 120 for Kansas City and 100 for Cleveland. And when you look at the pitchers matchups getting ready to happen, you have Logan Allen against Alec Marsh. And Logan Allen's a favorite, even though I don't think he really should be. Then the next game is Gavin Williams against Michael Lorenzen. That's going to be another one of those, okay, Cleveland's going to be favored, but by a little bit. And then the last one is Tanner Bybee against Michael Wacha, which, again, Cleveland's going to be favored. So if I'm looking at this and trying to figure this out, after game one, right, if you want, think about this, if you want to bet a series price and Logan Allen, Gavin Williams, and Tanner Bybee probably are going to be better matchups for Cleveland than the Royals pitchers, you probably can, and you're looking at the number, and that number was, what was it after that game? Go back over there. It was Cleveland now plus 100. I'm getting the number from Bookmaker. Bookmaker's minus 120 plus 100. You can bet Cleveland plus 100, but they got to sweep the series now. So that's kind of how rough it becomes, when these series bets come out there. And it's like the Yankees. The Yankees in the series price are minus 281. So they got to win 2 out of 3. Can the Yankees win 2 out of 3? Probably. I don't know what the pitching matchups look like, but you're only doing it once, right? You're not doing it twice. You're only making this bet one time, and you still got to see if there's value or not. So here you go. You got Nestor Cortez tonight against Mitchell Parker, and he's a minus almost 200. He's minus 180. Tomorrow it's Garrett Cole against Patrick Corbin. Well, he's going to be over 200 favorite. And then the next day, it's Carlos Rodon against Mackenzie Gore. Again, he's going to be almost a 200 favorite. So instead of betting these minus 200 favorites all the time, just bet the series price once. And I think you're probably pretty good on some of this stuff. But it's just food for thought. And as we start to look for opportunities, we might have to go those directions just to find other things and other ways to get our money in play, which I didn't do any of that yet. Well, I'm not there yet. So let's look at a couple more games and then we'll be done because we're almost through the whole card. We have the next game on the list, I think, was here we go. The next game on the list was this is San Diego at St. Louis. It was kind of a pick 'em earlier this morning. San Diego minus 105, St. Louis minus 105. This is Vasquez and Gibson, but I think Gibson's the favorite now. Yeah, 118. So Gibson's minus 118. So if my number comes up and my number says San Diego is minus 104, in the morning it was 106 and 104 is no value. But now I'm getting plus 108, and I think they should be minus 104. So that's a very small favorite, or a very small value there. And you run into this problem. Do you want to bet on Randy Vasquez, or do you want to take your chance that Gibson's going to throw a good game? My opinion is that San Diego's offense is not as good as what it's made out to be, even though they scorecard well. They get key hits. Jackson Merrill hit the home run yesterday to walk off the game. They come from behind a lot. And St. Louis is a team that you can do that to. Other than Hensley in the back end, pitching the last inning, their bullpen's not been that good. San Diego's bullpen's been pretty good. Vasquez, all he's got to do is give you 6 innings, and you're in the fight. And St. Louis doesn't have this great offense. So my opinion is that San Diego is the right way to go, not St. Louis. Gibson has been hit hard. His SOPS plus is ridiculous, if I remember right. Go back over here. Go to situational. Go to Gibson. 145. So he's 45% worse than an average pitcher over his last 30 days. He's not been good at home either. He's a 131 at home. St. Louis is just 46 and 46 against right-handed pitchers. They're 9 and 11 in the last 20, and the Padres are 14 and 6 in the last 20. The Padres are hitting. The Padres like to hit. They're 32% better than average team against right-handed pitching. 51 and 39 against right-handed pitching. It's when they face lefties, you kind of want to be a little more careful. I know Gibson's a little bit crafty, but the truth of the matter is, Gibson puts guys on base. He walks guys. He's a bulldog. He doesn't give in, and because he doesn't give in, guys get on base. So if San Diego has an opportunity to score, hopefully that they put some across, because I think this is a good spot for San Diego, not for St. Louis. Even though St. Louis had a decent series against the Mets or the Twins. Detroit's throwing a call-up kid today. This is major league debut. Doesn't matter. They're facing the White Sox. So you just bet against the White Sox all the time. You'll be fine. It just depends on how you want to do it. But again, I'm just going to tell you the way I do it. Detroit's got nothing to play for. The White Sox got nothing to play for. Miami's got nothing to play for. Colorado's got nothing to play for. I just don't even look at these games. There's no point. What if one of them wakes up and says, "Oh, I'm going to pitch good today," and they go out and throw, 8 innings and only give up 1 run. And then that throws off all your total games. It throws off all your other stuff. And the performance is going to be so inconsistent from these teams that it's hard to have predictability on these games. And then the last game I thought was an interesting matchup. This is Pepio for Tampa Bay against Miller for Seattle. And the one thing I will tell you, and I've kind of been watching it all season long, Miller at home has just been unbelievable. He's a SOPS plus 52. He's 48% better than average pitcher at home. So that tells me, number one, I can't bet against Seattle. Can't. Because he's basically twice as good as any other pitcher. And then when you look at kind of where they both are over the last 28 days, Pepio is a 65. So that's 35% better than an average pitcher. And Miller's a 63. So he's, 37% better than average. But these guys are going to be able to pitch. And I think that there's going to be very few runs. So this would be more of a game total type under spot. and especially considering that Tampa Bay is scoring 2.7 runs a game, and the Mariners are scoring 3.3 runs a game. Tampa Bay ranks 27th in offense. Seattle ranks 22nd in offense, but Seattle ranks 30th in isolated power. So they're not hitting doubles or hitting home runs or none of that stuff. So I think that the pitchers can dominate this game and probably should dominate this game. Both of these guys throw pretty hard. If you haven't seen Pepio pitch for a while, he's pretty good. And I think that, facing Seattle, they don't hit. So it's interesting to see how Seattle has done since they fired their manager. They won the first game sort of in comeback fashion. They lost the second game, and then they won the third game sort of in comeback fashion. So we'll see kind of the momentum thing has shifted a little bit for them. The aura of the team feels different. Edgar Martinez is now the batting coach. So we'll see if they can actually turn things around offensively. But watching the games through the computer, they still don't swing at good pitches. They swing at a lot of balls out of the strike zone, and that's partly part of the problem because two things: one, they strike out a ton, and two, they make weak contact on balls they shouldn't have swung at in the first place, and theoretically. Balls that were ball four, they swing out and hit the ground balls, to the shortstop and get thrown out or hit into double plays. They're like their own worst enemy when it comes to balls that they're hitting. So maybe he can help them identify the pitches faster out of the pitcher's hand. Whatever he can do to help them, because I think they're a pretty talented team, especially with the mound. And I think the Rays. The Rays, Caminero is going to be pretty good. Their new third baseman. I think he's going to be pretty good. But we'll see. They had some internal fighting the other day. Yandy Diaz didn't like Caballero doing something, so I don't know. They were fighting in the dugout. So you don't want to bet on teams that are fighting in the dugout. But you also think too that that's a team that could be pressing. Pressing means that they try to do too much and they don't score. So. I think this is a good under spot. So anyway, wasn't a whole lot there on the Major League Baseball card, but I do think that, you can play the Twins. I think, what was the other thing we said? Go back to where my numbers are. There we are. We talked about playing the Kansas City Royals in the second game. We talked about, playing the under in this game. So I think that you can do that. I think you'll be all right there. We talked about even throwing a little bit of money on the Padres if you wanted to do that. And then we talked about the series prices. But lastly, I just wanted to hit you with a couple other things. Looking at football and looking at some of the stuff that's getting ready to happen here, I'm going to make a couple of statements. One, week one college football lines, most of them, the majority of them, have been out most of the summer. So I would tell you that if you haven't already played those numbers that have been out there, it's not necessarily in your best interest on Monday to go, oh, shit, I'm going to go make these bets before these numbers move. You've had all summer. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. What I mean by that is you just need to wait now. Just keep an eye on what's going on. Keep an eye on the numbers a little bit, and then learn from what happened on week 0. So what happened on week 0? Well, Florida State has a new quarterback, and they lost a lot of guys to the NFL. They go out as a favorite, and they don't cover the 10 points, 11 points, whatever it was that you got on the game. And not only did they not cover, they lost outright. So think about that when you're thinking about teams that are going to play this week. Do they have new quarterbacks? Like, say, for example, my University of Miami. They're going to be a good football team, but they have a brand new quarterback who's transferred in from Washington State. Good kid, good quarterback. Cam Ward, good player. They also have a stud running back that they got from Oregon State. Jackson's going to, 1,000-yard rusher. That they have some guys that have returned on offense and some guys that returned on defense in terms of offensive linemen, defensive linemen, all that. They're a good football team. But now they got to go as a favorite into the swamp at Florida, and they've got to cover a number. But just kind of remember what it looked like for some of these teams. You had SMU who basically pulled one out of their you-know-whats. Hawaii was a 40-point favorite and didn't, barely won the game. They shouldn't say barely. They won 21 points. But going into the fourth quarter, they were ahead by 7. So I think that the week 1 of college football is not the week you want to go crazy with the amounts of money that you bet. You can bet as many games as you think you have value on, but you got to remember that these numbers aren't stale. These numbers have been out there a long time already. So when certain things are going on and certain things are happening, you just got to be careful. Now, I will share this. I haven't shared it with my group yet, but I will. I did make a college football bet today, and I will just say that it's a total. I bet the Pittsburgh Kent State game. I got 54.5 at the Hard Rock, and I see a lot of 55.5 now. So if you can still get a good number on that game, then I would say it's a good spot. A couple things here, right? Kent State, they're not a good football team, but at the same time that they're not a good football team, they probably are one of the most improved offensive teams in the entire country. So I think that offensively they'll be better, but a lot of totals are matchups, meaning that you got good offenses against defenses that aren't the best in the world. So Kent State scores a couple touchdowns. I think this game can go over, get over that number. They get to 20 points. Pittsburgh scores enough to get over the number, and you got it. So anyway, that's my thoughts on college football for right now. Like, I don't want to see people go, I'm going to go run out and bet, that Georgia game against Clemson, or I'm going to go bet, LSU, or I'm going to go bet this or that. Pay attention to the key numbers. Pay attention to what moves the number. What information is leading them to the number being moved? Is it a fake by the sports book or whatever to get some action going? Because the number's been out there a long time. Next week, week 2, we won't be talking this way because there'll be fresh numbers, brand new numbers. There'll be overreactions and underreactions to whatever happened in week 1. So anyway, food for thought. All right, guys, it is 7:08. Been on here for a little while, so we are going to close the show. Thanks for coming on, and we will be back tomorrow, normal time tomorrow, 6:15, normal day, Tuesday. And we will break down, I'm sure, tons of baseball and hopefully have lots of games to really digest and get into and kind of go from there. So, again, way to close the show, way I always do. Follow me on Twitter. I say this every day. I say this all the time. Nobody does. Nobody goes and says, this is great. Follow him on Twitter. I don't care how many followers I have. It's more about getting the word out, getting the show out, getting all the stuff going on. Go to my website. Yeah, that stuff always helps. All the interactions that you can do, like Daniel Barry says hello. We get a lot of interactions sometimes with questions about the games. All of that stuff helps. But like the show, retweet the show, make comments about the show, anything to get more views, because we are growing. I was part of a show with Jeff earlier today. We did 450 people live, so that's pretty good this morning. Right now we only got about 60. So normally we're getting somewhere around 150 to 200 people, but it's Monday and I'm not normally on. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. So that's what we want, right? We want to get a lot of people in here. Help me do that. Help me do that by liking, retweeting, hitting the subscription bells, or whatever those influencer people say, and then we go from there. So if you want to be a part of what I do and you want my plays, you can just sign up for them at MLB-day.com. Guys, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. And let's make some money and have a good night. And I will see you tomorrow.